What's up, Pirates? Wraith here with AwakenedTCG, and my first take got messed up, and so I got to re-record this. And I'm going to go over the same matches I just initially played, but I'm just gonna do a voiceover, not more of like a voiceover, but I'm just going to commentate and analyze my gameplay, so you guys can see the combo and the power of Arlong. And yes, we are going to go over Arlong for OP07, and it's crazy because I didn't even expect to be making this today, but Captain Skis, I'll leave his link to his Twitter down below, actually was testing this deck and theory crafting a list like this, and it really caught my eye. So as someone who tried out Arlong back in OP03, I really wanted to make him work, but he has some flaws, right? So his effect says Dawn times 2. When attacking, rest 1 Dawn, play up to 1 character with cost 4 or less with trigger from hand. So essentially, you swing 7, you rest 1 Dawn, and then you play a 4 or less from hand with trigger onto the board. So in my opinion, one of the flaws that he had was essentially you were never gaining cards like resources. You're always putting them onto the board, right? So if something ever happened to him, removal, bottom deck, KO, something, you're out of more resources. And so in OP03, this deck was really bad just because it didn't have like what the other top decks had at the time, which was a bunch of searchers, right? It was Zoro meta, Whitebeard meta. It was literally just a go face, go aggro, but not enough steam to handle the top tier decks at the time. Now we have a card like this with the Wano package, Momo, Otama, Hiyori, where we can just continue this stream of pressure with infinite gas essentially. So let's go over the list real quick. We have 4 Hiyori. Our main target here is Momo. We can play this Yamato, and we can play this Kikunojo. So we do have some targets, but the main priority here is Momo. And since we're searching so much Wano cards, we're, essentially always going to find it. So number 2, Momo. This searches all of our Land of Wano cards. Yamato, I needed some extra targets for the Hiyori, and so that is the main reason that we have it in currently. And it's good into matchups where, it's going to be safe for a turn, and then we can go crazy. Hody, this is our game ender. Obviously a great card. Again, just like Yamato, on decks that are a little bit slower, like Bani, Nami, decks where, this Zoro is going to touch the floor and it's going to stay for a turn, we want to play those into those decks. Otama, this is going to search only green Land of Wano, so it's going to search our Momo, it's going to search our Hiyori. So, obviously, and our You Can Be My Samurai, which is 12 targets, which is the lowest amount of targets that you can have for a searcher, in my opinion. I think 12 is that magic number of like it has to be 12 or more. If it's anything under 12, maybe you don't want to run the searcher. And then we have off our leader ability, we have 3 Sanji, we have technically these 4 Otama can be used as well, 4 Kikunojo, and we have 4 Crackers. That is about 12, 13, 14, 15 targets. So not the most either, but we can make it work. Obviously, Cracker, double attack. Sanji is a blocker. Onami, it can pressure the opponent. Swinging 7, leader effect, play Onami onto leader and make him give you cards, right? I think that's one of the biggest strengths. On top of that, we can Onami the Zoro. If we ever play a Zoro, and we just Onami it, it turns into a monster, a lethal monster. Then we have Kikunojo, just a great card to use in this deck to be able to sustain ourselves, and the trigger is really amazing. Hiyori, so basically what the combo is, there's a couple of combos you can do, but a Hiyori, you can put a trigger into life, and then we go play this Hiyori, the 4-drop. We draw a card, we can Momo, we can go ahead and put this back into life. But we can take it a step further. If we have at least 7 Dawn, we can go Hiyori, we can set something up into our trigger, into our life. We play the 4-cost Hiyori, and then you can Be My Samurai. We rest the 2-cost Hiyori, we rest the 4-cost Hiyori. Then we play the Momo off of the 4-cost Hiyori. We draw a card, we play the on play on here, we put this Hiyori back into life. So now we drew 2, we drew off the Hiyori, 4-cost Hiyori effect, we put a trigger into our life, and then we wanoed our Hiyori back into life. So essentially we did not lose that 2k. So you get a ton of value just doing this combo with these 4 cards here. Super amazing. Obviously our engine card here, You Can Be My Samurai. We want to, rest our Otamas. We want to rest our Hiyoris when we can with this card here, because they're basically useless cards. This just uses itself regardless, so it's a free rest. And then this, obviously, we already got our search off. This Otama can actually be put onto life through this Momo as well. So with that being said, we have a lot of bricks because of the Momos, the Kikus, the Hodis, the Zoros. So a lot of bricks. So we're running 2 zero cost events, and then getting this out of life would just be insane, right? And then 2 flame split. I'm thinking about going to Maru potentially, but something to rest blockers in the late game if you don't have a Hodi. If you can find something to rest a blocker, that is amazing. And so that is this deck list. Shout outs to Captain Skis again for creating this. I'm going to be playing some games. We're going to be talking over some gameplay and kind of seeing how this engine runs and how the deck plays. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So these are pre-recorded games. Unfortunately, my audio got messed up on the first go around. So I'm going to be re-recording these. I'm just going to be analyzing kind of what I'm going to be doing. And so here we have Otama, Onami, Hiyori, Cracker, Yamato, and a zero cost event. So basically all I'm doing here is thinking on what my play is. I'm debating on what I want to do. And so I know going second, I can use that Cracker to my ability because obviously the Rage is going to swing into me first. So I go ahead and play the Cracker trigger off the Hiyori. He goes Porsche, but I think the best thing to note here is I have an Onami in hand. And so Onami is going to make this Cracker a double attack banish. Unfortunately, he plays a chopper off the Porsche. So already had Porsche in hand, already had the chopper in hand, and kind of just negated my chopper. It negated my Cracker altogether. So unfortunately, it didn't go as I planned because he had the counter there. I'm not even sure. Kind of, obviously you keep the Porsche in hand, but it is very unfortunate that he had the chopper. I think there's no more than 8 blockers in Reiju. I know it's 4 chopper and then however many queen they run, 2, 3, 4. So my turn basically was just Hiyori, draw 1, grab a or put the Hiyori 2k counter back into my life, and then I just swung 5 at him. So now it is his turn. I'm really debating what I want to do here. I'm thinking, I didn't really want to take that second 5k swing, but if he ECG, then it was going to be cooked. And so there I was confused. I'm like, wait, why didn't he bounce back the Cracker? But my opponent probably forgot as well that Niji has to have equal to or less Dawn, or the Reiju does. And so I actually had less Dawn, so the effect did not work. I tried to search for something kind of to play into what I was doing. Unfortunately, it did not work out. And so I'm kind of embarrassed. I know how this game went down, and I misplay at the end. Pretty crazy. But for the most part, I say I'd play it pretty average or as good as it can get, I guess. So here I was debating using the 3 Dawn or not. I can, attach onto the Cracker, swing double life, but he's just gonna he's just gonna block. Like there's no other way to put it. And so yeah, I mean I just passed. I just passed. Like there's literally no reason for me to swing the Cracker when then he gets 2 swings at it, and that's either A, use all my hand and protect it, B, I leave it up and I don't have to protect it. He can swing at life. And I knew that Onami was there, and so I'm like, you know what? This is perfect. I went ahead and put that Onami there for a reason to get rid of the Niji. And then he plays another chopper blocker, and so at this point I'm getting desperate. I'm like, I need a double hit to go, and so I play Hody Jones, rest both the blockers, swing 0 at both the blockers. And at this point, I'm like, okay, we're in a great spot here. So I double attack. And the reasoning here is I now have a good amount of cards that I would counter with and 1 blocker while he has a 5k body and a 5k body on the board. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and swing 7 and pressure him. I don't think I swing with the Momo here, but that might have been a misplay. I think I should have swung with the Momo here, knowing that if he went 10-10, I can go 8, 9, 10, 11 exactly with the cards I have in hand, plus 1 life, right? So I think I should have not allowed him to keep up the pressure on me. And so if I swing the 6k here, maybe he's forced to go for game. Maybe the outcome is a little bit different, but I didn't, right? So I just left the Momo up, not really taking into account that I can actually counter out if he goes for game, right? Even if he ECGs, potentially I can still have game. Actually, if he does have ECG, I don't think I can counter out because the 7 would be 0 cost event, and then he just splits the other 6 Dawn. Oh, he's not at 10 Dawn. He's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he had 4 Dawn. He split the 4, he goes 7, 7. Potentially, yeah, I actually would still be able to counter out out of one of the swings. But I didn't want to chance it, so I left the Momo up. Maybe I should have done the math there. That is on me. But it's kind of hard when I'm learning this new deck, right? So learning this whole new deck, I'm trying to, figure it out and make the most optimal plays. And so this is where I mess up, guys. If you don't know, blue has a card called Pudding, right? So they play the Pudding, and your hand goes bye bye. Your hand goes bye bye. Put it into the deck, shuffle. You draw 5, and so that is gonna happen to me here. And at this point, I'm thinking, what can I do to get the most value? Um, and so I'm not even thinking anything of it. I'm not even thinking anything of it. I know I have this card, I have that card. And so here, if you look at my hand, I have a good amount of counter. I got the 0 cost with the brick, and then I have a 0 cost with a 1K, and then a 1. So this is the start of the beginning of the end. You can kind of see, though, how the Wano engine keeps this deck going, especially with those momos. If you can chain momos and chain your life back and back over and over, and really manipulate your life, it can get pretty obnoxious for your opponent. And so that's basically the main thing that I wanted to know on this deck, is like, it has a lot of answers. It has a lot of answers to a lot of different situations. I think the biggest one it doesn't is probably 8 cost Moria and 8 cost Kid. Being able to get rid of a body like that, it would probably struggle with this deck unless you run like Katakuri. But even then, that feels kind of bad and doesn't really have that cohesion with the deck. And so there he goes, playing another 2 Reiju. Fills his hand all the way back up. And so at this point, I'm kind of lost. I'm like, I think I have to go for game. So that's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, I probably have to go for game. Unfortunately, I'm looking at the 7 cards in his hand, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go for the extended play. We go Momo. We can find something. We can play You Can Be My Samurai, draw 2 again. And so we have a lot of options here. And so I'm debating, and boom, as you can see, I find the Momo. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we could find another card. I'm like, all right, cool. We find the Otama. This Otama can grab us, a good card here. And boom, lo and behold, we have a 2K. We can only get green cards. And so this Otama actually can only get us the Momo, which is fine, because I'm going to You Can Be My Samurai and draw another 2. But going back to what I said, the card that just makes your hand go bye-bye, this is the last thing on my mind. I'm learning how to play this deck, trying to be as efficient as possible, not realizing that my opponent has a card that can just destroy my hand. And so at this point, I should have just pressured life. Played another blocker, passed, right? Because I would have had enough counter to just counter out of his next turn, and I would have been A-okay. But unfortunately, as you can see, I'm still going crazy. And yeah, I mean, it definitely does not work out here. You guys are going to see very soon. So unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I think I would have had this game won had I played it a bit different here in this turn. But unfortunately, like I said, I was learning the deck, made a misplay. I decided to turbo rant my hand, right? I went from 5 cards to 8 cards like this. And yeah, he just he plays Pudding. And I get 3 bricks, by the way, 3 bricks. So yeah, you guys can see how the end of this game goes. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And I basically just lose. But I do want to say, in this match, I think I still had the momentum up until that last turn, where I kind of just threw it by grabbing 8 cards in hand, thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna get hack a counter and I'll win on the following turn. Unfortunately, that was the wrong decision, because Pudding, right? So I was thinking about that. But if I avoided that mistake, I probably would have won. And so for the next one, if I'm versing blue, I'm gonna remember about Pudding. So a lot of the times people will, wonder why they lost. Well, it was clear in that match why I lost. I had a bunch of counter. If he went for game, I would have had the counter. I had a blocker up, and then on the crackback, I can win the game, right? I can just win the game. And so that's how you learn. Now we reviewed it. We know, we got a lot of counter in our hand, and then we just got Puddinged, got 3 bricks. If we had kept maybe 6 cards in hand, instead of going to 8, keep 5, 6 cards in hand, still have a lot of counter. Don't let your opponent think that a Pudding is a good decision. Regardless, let's go ahead and go into the next match. And so here we have Rob Lucci. So in my opinion, this is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, matchups for Arlong, in my personal opinion, from the short stint that I had on this deck and on this list, I believe that Arlong just doesn't have what it takes to keep up with a deck like Rob Lucci. So at any point here, if he goes Rob Lucci 4 cost and just clears both my units and swings 5 and puts pressure on me, I'm kind of cooked. Luckily for me, he did not have a turn 1 play. So on 2 dawn, he did not have a Spandam. He did not cycle a card. Otherwise, he can swing 5. Lucci bottom deck 3 cards. So on his 4 dawn turn, he did not have 3 cards in trash to be able to KO. So I think that was a good play by me. Seeing that he didn't have the required cards to trash, I'm like, these units are safe here. He's gonna have to swing into them. So moving on, he's swinging 5 at me, pressuring me. I think at this point I'm like, okay, yeah, he's for sure playing the Lucci. He's gonna clear my board. You know, it is what it is. I have a nice hand set up. I can play the 9-cost Zoro. I will be fine in this matchup, right? So I am on the odd curve. If I just play 9-cost Zoro on 9 and he does not remove it, I will be completely fine. So as we can see, there is the Rob Lucci. We got an early Kikunojo trigger. And so these are the turns where you have the best play set up, where you can go Otama, search, you can be my samurai, search, and then we just go 5 costs, put back to the top of our deck a unit. And so in this case, it's the Kikunojo. Why? Because 1, we can replay it off of a swing, right? It's going to come down off of life. 2, if he wants to kill the Otamas, he can go ahead and swing into them, and they are 0 power. So on his board, they are not a threat, right? They're not a threat. So it does not matter. He doesn't want to swing into them because they're not a threat on his board. But by leaving them, I have more targets for you can be my samurai. So it puts you in it honestly puts you in a predicament of whether or not you want to swing into them. And so, yeah, here I give out the counter. I don't want to go down to 2 life. He just plays Sabo. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I think I'm in a great spot here. Let's go ahead and swing into his board. Let's swing into his life. And we're just going to play 9-cost Zoro. Luckily for me, he gave up both of his units relatively easily, and I just dropped the 9 cost. So looking at the board state, I'm thinking to myself, well, I have a big advantage, but he could have a Moria play here. So at any point, if he just Morias, you know, fills up the board, it can get a little hairy. It can get a little hairy. I'm not going to lie. That is what Rob Lucci and the Black decks do best with 8-cost Moria. They just flood the board. Moria, Rebecca, Meppo, Spandine into Lucci. Let me repeat that for you guys. Moria, Rebecca, Helmeppo, Spandine, Lucci. If you have no cards on board, I repeat, if you have no cards on board and you play an 8-cost Moria and you play Rebecca and you play a 2-cost or less off of Moria, that's 3 units. 3 units. You get Rebecca to play Spandine off the effect and Spandine to play Lucci off the effect. You just have a full board. You just have a full board. And so it is disgusting, right? Obviously, 2 of the units are kind of lower end weenie units, but you know, that does not matter. It's still pretty crazy. So here, as you can see, we're setting up our life, and then we're going to go ahead and finish off of our play. I think we're going to leader effect, play the Kiku. So at this point, we want to establish Kikus to make our opponent, like force him to swing at the Kikus so we get life. Which means we can extend the game. As soon as we can continue to extend the game, we're going to be in a great position. He was able to get rid of our Zoro, which is A-okay, but we're going to be in a great position here. And on top of that, we can play another blocker. I'm debating here, do I want to put a Kiku back? Do I want to put a Hiyori back? But I decided with the Hiyori only for the reason that I want these Kikus to get killed. Obviously, I'm not in the best position currently, but if he kills my Kikus and gives me more life, more potential triggers, you know, Cracker's a good card. I have that in this deck. So he goes in swing 6, and I didn't want to give him a 2K, so I'm like, you know what, that's fine. I'm just gonna get another life, and lo and behold, I'm pretty sure this isn't a trigger. No. I think I counter out. It was a 6K. I had a 2K in life, and so I just counter out straight up. Knowing he's only gonna have 2 swings left, I'm like, fine, I can take 2 life. No problem, right? No problem. I'm hoping for a probably another Momo at this point. I'm not sure if that's the card that I top deck, but he swings 9, I take, and you know what? I'm gonna trigger that. Let's see what my opponent does here. So I have a Flame Split in hand. That's the last thing I have in hand, right? It's just the Flame Split. Flame Split is a really good card. I think it's really powerful. Basically just a Namaru, but on your opponent's life. and then my opponent swing 5. I'm looking at his board. I'm like, huh. Well, he actually has no more swings left, right? Like, unless he attaches down to Spandine. So I just block, right? There's no reason not to. And having 10 down up, you're kind of telling me what exactly you're going to do, right? 9 cost, 8 cost. Like, you're basically going to flood a board. You're going to try to do something to, you know, fill up your board with some bigger bodies. Unfortunately, I was wrong. He didn't do that. He played Rebecca instead. And then I'm not sure if he plays the Sabo this turn. He does have 5 Dawn left. I'm not sure. So he just passes. He didn't have any other plays, and so he passes. It's still looking grim for me. I don't know if there are any outs, but I'm going to try my best with the hand that I was given. And so we go Otama, find a Hiyori. We don't find a better target, and so I'm debating if I want this card. And yeah, as you can see there, I chose to Hiyori, draw 1, and it is into a Momo. And so at this point, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, oh my god, wait, I see a line. There is a world. There is a world. Unfortunately, I threw, instead of swinging 5-6, I'm swinging 8-8, forgetting that I was gonna play this Momo. So at this point, I'm really bummed. I'm like, bro, did I just do that? Unfortunately, I don't think the Rob Lucci has any plays the way he plays this next turn. But yeah, that was definitely a misplay on my end. I don't want to be doing that. I'm like, okay, I can swing, get him to. Basically, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get a life out of him. Unfortunately, he just countered out of my swings, which is okay. But when you're at 4 in hand and you swing 5 and you swing 6, I think it's okay. Because it's still 1 resource point, right? When I'm swinging 8s, he's just blocking for free. But if I just swing 5 and 6, he might hesitate and not want to block. But me knowing I have flame split, I was trying to push for that 2 life to be able to use it. Unfortunately, he did just block out of both, and so he's going for game here, or at least he's trying to put me to 0. But I get a cracker trigger, and it was just enough of what I needed. So he goes Moria, Becca, Meppo, I believe. Yeah, so there's the Meppo. That Meppo is gonna pop my cracker. Luckily, if it doesn't pop the cracker, it would have popped the Kikunojo, and that means I would have had no cards to run. I mean, I would have had an extra life, but a cracker's a double attack, and then I top deck a Hody. Top deck of top decks, probably the only card that would have saved me. And sometimes that's how card games are. You need a certain card, and the deck just gives it to you. And so that's exactly what happened here. I top decked the Hody Jones, was probably the only card that would have saved me. And so I'm debating how I want to swing here. I'm like, okay, well, I know he's used a lot of 2Ks. Let me go ahead and try 6Ks. So he did 2K, and at this point, that last 2K was definitely a gamble. If he counters out, I just lose the game. No ifs, ands, or buts. Not even able to use Hiyori. But yeah, I swing 7, and then I swing 8. And my opponent was actually break, like actually. So his hand was a Lucci, Sabo, Moria, Ice Age, and a Brook. So very unfortunate on his end. But yeah, you guys can kind of see how the engine works on this deck, right? You play your Hiyori, you play your Otama Searcher. You can be my Samurai. You go ahead and do Hiyori effect to draw again. So now you're at up to 3 draws. And then you go ahead and play the 5 cost Momonosuke, send the Hiyori back, or send the Land of Wano Otama back to your life, right? Just so many combos with this deck, and it's just going back and forth the whole time. You can set your life with Hiyori before you put it back. Leader effect into Otama is still really, really good. Or Onami, leader effect into Onami to get that banish is insane. Puts on a lot of pressure while your opponent does not gain hand advantage, which I think is the big thing. But yeah, with that being said, guys, I do want to say one thing. I hope you guys really enjoyed, this breakdown on Arlong, and I hope you guys try out the deck. It is so fun. Like, it is actually so fun. I might have to run this at one of my locals. But if you guys don't know, unfortunately, I do not have a job right now. And so with that being said, I am going to pursue content full time. It's definitely something different. Never done this before. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to put in 110% effort to try and make it happen and make it a reality. So just be on the lookout for a lot of content. I'm going to be doing Patreon, coaching, and obviously daily videos again. For the short term, I have some longer term goals that I hope I can share more details with you guys very soon. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my Patreon if you haven't already. I'm gonna be doing a lot of Patreon articles with a lot of fundamental basics. And then yeah, obviously my coaching. There's two types of coaching. We can do a best of 3 set where I write notes down as we play a set. I will then give you the notes and we can talk about them so you can get better. But it is not official coaching. We just play a set. We play a matchup. I give you advice. I have an official coaching where it's one-on-one, an hour. We deep dive into your knowledge on the game and see where your weak points are, and so we progress, get better, and honestly just make you a better player overall in this game. And then obviously our YouTube. Make sure to comment, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.